Hi, I'm Natasha Ryan with Premier Risk Solutions, and this is our video series, Strong, Safe, and True, where we talk to leaders in the security sector about relevant topics to today's security climate. And today I have Stuart Nash with me. Stuart is the owner of Alchemy Global, and we've worked together with PRS on a number of international projects in 8 different countries. And today, Stuart is very relevant because we're talking international. Stuart, do you want to give us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Hi, Natasha. Thanks very much for including me in your series. It's a pleasure to be here. So I've been the owner of Alchemy Global for about 12 years, following on from a military career. It's a small security consultancy that specializes in executive protection, ground transportation, surveillance, residential security, that kind of thing.
And we wanted to talk about international travel, of course, because of the pandemic. And, as people start to plan vacations and you're getting more tourism into your country, want to talk about what people need to be aware of before they try to make these travel plans and see what's going on the other side of the world. We want to know what's going on in Europe as far as the pandemic as well. So I'm going to start our screen share of the slideshow here. Again, we're talking current travel climate. And, you said specifically there are some concerns coming in and out of Europe from the United States. So can you kind of talk about some of those?
Absolutely. It's not specifically around the US, but there are concerns around, as borders open up and international travel starts to happen, where are we going to start introducing new strains of the virus? We know already that the virus mutates. That's what they do anyway. But the Public Health England have started tracking variations from the Philippines and India, and we already know about the South Africa variant and the Brazil variant. So there's definitely some cautious approaches to opening back up international travel. At the moment, England is in a lockdown, and when we do open up, it's going to be on a traffic light basis. So countries will be grouped as green, amber, or red, and each of those will have a different level of quarantine or testing regime attached to them. So at a green level, what you'd be required to have is a lateral flow test. And I know that there's some concern amongst the medical community about the accuracy of these tests. So when they look at those tests, it's the specificity is one of the areas, and also things like the false negatives. So are these really the appropriate tests to be taking when people are coming into the country with such a known accuracy issue?
Who can come in at this moment?
So at the moment, you can only come in if you're a national, a UK or Irish national, or you have a right to live here, and that's it. And then if you do fall into one of those categories, but you've been in a red country, then you are obliged to go into a government program where you are met at the airport, escorted to a hotel, and then you're under a strict quarantine period for 14 days.
When is that likely to go to the next step where more people can come in? Like the next phase is what we would call it. I don't know if that's what you call it in the UK.
Yeah, sure. So we're on a 4-step roadmap to recovery. We're currently in stage 2 at the moment. The next stage happens on or around May 17th. And that is to allow, there's a further easing to allow more households to meet outdoors. Gatherings for 30 people will be allowed, and the rule of 6 or more than 2 households will not apply anymore. And then the next stage after that, which is ultimately, as it currently stands, is going to be the final step, which is step 4, which is not before the 21st of June. And then the government hopes to be in a position to remove all restrictions on social contact. And then that things like the entertainment, nightlife, sporting events, all those kind of things will happen. But there is actually a gradual approach. They're running some pilot schemes to that in the UK at the moment. Things like some sporting events, the football FA Cup semi-final, 4,000 people happened recently. We've got and then it's gradually building all the way up to the FA Cup final, which is quite a big deal in the UK, on the 15th of May, and that's at Wembley for 21,000 people. So there's a very phased and gradual rollout, and they'll be tracking and testing all of the people that attend those events.
How do you expect to see security kind of change in the future, maybe through, the next phase, not necessarily when everything's back to normal?
I think security, it's really shone a spotlight on security, all the way through COVID. Frontline officers have probably been asked to do things that ordinarily they wouldn't have been. So much more exposure to things like conflict management, physical intervention, much more exposure to scenarios that would have put them through some different testing conditions. I think so. Definitely the security around these events is going to be much more mindful around social distancing, physical distancing, PPE, mandatory face coverings, restricting the capacity of events and making sure that it's strict, not just on entering the venue, but also when you're inside the venue, and also on the egress as well. So it's going to be a much more controlled and managed process.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I was wondering, like, are gone the days where you could just show up at a tourist site and say, I think I want to go, see the Eiffel Tower today, and you just go? Like, do you think that's going to be gone for a while? You're going to have everything mapped out in advance. And I mean, how long do you think that's going to be that way?
I think at least until the autumn, at least until August, September. People are going to be concerned, I think, around the physical distancing that can be met when they're queuing for attractions. So if you start to factor all of those things in, I think there'll be much more a drive towards contactless. So you'll be booking into attractions rather than just turning up hoping to get in. There'll be just much more spatial awareness.
From a security standpoint, when people are allowed to come back and vacation, take holidays in the UK, are there any suggestions you would have from a security standpoint?
I would say lots of planning, making sure that you know exactly what's expected of you, making sure that you've got all the correct equipment that you might need, reading any literature you can possibly do in advance, making sure there's, so I think communication's a key to it. What else might, do you want to just ask me the question again?
This trip, do you have any maybe on that front, do you have any advice security wise? Have things changed? Is there something companies need to know now that the pandemic's had an effect everywhere? What would you tell a company sending an executive over?
So definitely get in touch early with your local provider, whether it's the ground transportation, if it's security. Try and share as much of the itinerary as possible, make it collaborative so everybody is informed about what's expected of them on particular days. Ask for protocols and ask for policies and what kind of mitigation has been put into place to make sure that safety is paramount. I would look at making sure that there are things like certificates of compliancy, there's professional cleaning processes, maybe there's physical distancing is being put into place, hand sanitizers, and then also I think if you're looking for an executive to travel, making sure that there's good communication, things like mental health have really become very paramount during this whole process. So just because somebody is expected to travel or asked to travel, are they actually physically and mentally capable of traveling? What extra processes might need to be involved in managing that type of travel?
Okay. All right. Do you want to add anything else, Stuart?
No, I don't think so. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's quite a bit later where you're at. I appreciate you
We are
taking the
just about
time.
to start the weekend.
Well, enjoy it. And thanks again to Stuart. And of course, if you need any services, PRS is here to help with security consulting, private investigation, private security services in general. We do a lot of risk assessments, threat assessments, executive protection if you are sending executives somewhere or here at home. Just want to say thank you. Can you continue to check back with premierrisksolutions.com for more of these videos? And if you need any services, of course, there's my information, Natasha at Premier Risk